Hello, everyone. This is Bob Lowe, CSIA Executive Director. Thank you for attending our February webinar. Today's webinar will provide you with tools and methods to get the most from your technical personnel and improve company performance. Be sure to ask questions in the Q&A box and use the chat box if you have problems. Questions will be answered during the webinar, so be sure to ask them. The webinar will be archived for later viewing, and the presentation will be archived also. The host and sponsor of our monthly webinars is Software Toolbox, a CSIA partner member. Software Toolbox helps system integrators lower their risk on projects that involve software by providing them a unique mix of off-the-shelf software products and rapid response technical support that minimizes the need for custom code and lowers field startup time risk. I would like to introduce today's webinar presenter, Gina Coleal. Gina is with TEC Systems Group, a CSIA integrator member. She has worked as their human resources manager, but also plays a broader business strategy role with TEC. Her primary focus has been the implementation of human resources business systems that are designed to improve employee capability and company performance. She has 15 years of experience in HR, operations, and safety, and has experience in manufacturing, healthcare, and engineering services. Gina holds her MBA from Concordia University. So, without further delay, here's Gina.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, Mr. Lowe, and all the CSIA members that have dialed in today to listen to me. And it's a topic that I'm passionate about, and it's about one of the approaches that we're taking at TEC here to develop soft skills among our technical professionals. So I hope you enjoy it and are able to take away either ideas, tools, or concepts to your organization. Part one of the presentation today is just going to be basically covering the foundation of what's in our program, more setting the stage of some of the components in regards to soft skills and the approach that we take at TEC. And then the second part of the presentation is more on the actual program that we've deployed here at TEC Systems and some of the more detailed components within that program. So before we get started into the meat of the presentation, I just want to, basically put up a slide that shows the definition of soft skills and hard skills. So you've heard that term a lot, and I'm sure you've seen it on the internet, read articles about it before. But basically, soft skills are, people skills. They're all your interpersonal traits, and it's in regards to communication, listening, situational awareness, how we deal with people on a day-to-day basis. And hard skills are more the technical skills. So for control system integrators, that would be, the engineering, the math, the science, the programming, the control system design, more of those hard skills, which we call more IQ. I put this slide up here to demonstrate the relationship between soft skills and hard skills and what's called EQ, and it's actually a term that's embedded in our program and some of the training that we've done. But soft skills, basically, you'll see that relationship to what we call the EQ factor, somebody's emotional intelligence. Where hard skills is more of, how you do in school, basically, more the math, the technical skills, the sciences, and so forth. So there is that relationship, and it is two very distinct skills. Some examples of common soft skills, these are just a few. Obviously, they vary from industry to industry, and there's many more, but I just put on this PowerPoint some of the top soft skills that are common throughout many industries. And if you look at that list and you see how critically important they are, we hire people, right? As control system integrators, we hire people. They are our assets. These are the people that generate revenue for your business. They interact with your clients, and they can really make or break your business, for lack of better terms. So their ability to communicate effectively on a project with their team members, with clients on projects is so important, as well as problem-solving skills, their ability to think out of the box. That's one of our core missions here at TEC is we really want people, and we emphasize we want that creative side, people thinking out of the box to provide our customers with creative solutions. teamwork capability, negotiating skills, that initiative and drive. So just to kind of name a few, I just put the most common up here that we embrace here at TEC and feel that are important. So why are soft skills so important? You know, many of us in our organizations spend a lot of money recruiting or even sometimes deploying technical recruiters to recruit specific control skills or engineering skills. And we take a look at that and we emphasize that. And we do that here at TEC as well. But the soft skills are so important because they basically can drive the success of your business and your projects. And these are just a few statistics out there. I just plucked a few, obviously, but the key point here is, as control system integrators, we really want to, you know, develop programs that have a more structured approach to soft skills development to improve your project success rates and increase your profitability of your business and keep that sustained competitive advantage. And I will also be talking more about this at the conference live and just, you know, talking about more of what is the business case for investing in soft skills training. But that will be held in April at the conference, and I'll get into a little bit more of that research at that date. I put this chart up here, and this is a term that we coined at TEC Systems, and we call it the skill-will factor. And this is a philosophy we embrace. So when we're hiring somebody or making even key business decisions, whether it's promotions, sometimes difficult situations that we all face in regards to terminations, or if we are reorganizing our business, we use this philosophy. And basically, it's just a 2x2 matrix, and we call it the skill-will factor. So when we're hiring people, we look at people with a higher will factor versus skill factor sometimes. Like I said, you know, many of us spend a lot of money recruiting, whether it's out of, you know, engineering career fairs or looking for that senior technical person, but that doesn't mean they will always be successful in your organization. And so we've learned that over time, and I would like to share a few examples as we go through the presentation today about how that's affected our business. But I've always kind of had this philosophy, and it's backed by research, of course, that, you know, people with the higher will factor, you know, you can develop the skill a lot easier than you can develop the will. You know, it's something that people either have or they don't, or you can help develop, but they have to have that, you know, kind of interpersonal drive and that will factor in order to be successful. And it's a lot easier to send somebody to a PLC programming or a specific technology course and have them learn it faster than it is if you have an individual that you've recruited with high technical skills, but just no drive, no will, no lack of interpersonal skills in your organization. It's going to take them a lot longer to be effective, if ever. So when we're hiring people, and I just, you know, kind of touched on the 2x2 matrix, we have deployed some pre-employment testing tools, and I believe Ken Edmondson touched on some other tools in his presentation last month, which I thought were great. This is one of the tools that we use. It's from hrpersonality.com. I just put a few screenshots of the actual test. I mean, you literally get booklets of information once you put a candidate through pre-employment testing. And we've utilized this to kind of test out that will factor and their soft skills. And where it's been helpful for our organization is if we are placing somebody that, for example, you know, we have employees in remote locations. So if I'm hiring and recruiting an individual and I'm going to be putting them at a customer site full time, and I'm not going to have a lot of direct oversight over that person, this is where a pre-employment testing tool can be helpful in understanding their tendencies. And that's really helped us. Also, it helps us with the client because, you know, we kind of go through the due diligence and what we've done from that standpoint before we place an individual on their site. And again, it's not a bulletproof approach, but it's another tool in your toolbox to help you really assess somebody's soft skills, especially if they're going to be interacting, you know, with that customer full time, with, you know, plant operators all the way up to management. It's important that they have good communication skills, leadership skills. They're able to work more independently. And that's, you know, this test specifically, I used this on a candidate that we were placing on site, and it kind of let me know that, hey, he's a good communicator. He doesn't like to be micromanaged. He's pretty self-directed, but he has a lot of self-control. So those are the things that I looked for, and that seemed like a good match for the position we were recruiting for. So I just put that up there as again, another method of, helping you assess the will factor in soft skills. So before we get into the program, I just want to take the opportunity, again, there's no, one-size-fits-all program here. It depends on your organization's culture, kind of where you're at and what you're willing to invest, but this is a program that we put in place at TEC, and when each employee is either being recruited into the organization and also during the orientation process of the organization, they get a full, 30-page booklet of our performance management program and how we approach the reviews, compensation, the training, the professional development, and skills. So as I go throughout each slide, again, some of these are just screenshots of the specifics of the program. They're not in the program in its entirety. But again, it's really the core of what we do, and it's one of the approaches we've taken here at TEC, and it's been fairly successful. So when we put this program in place, again, we test people, we look for that will factor, but then we realize that everybody in our organization and people that we recruit in our organization have to know that we consider soft skills a very important piece of our business, and we're willing to invest in those. So our goals for the program were to have a performance system that was more aligned with our business objectives. We're a service-oriented organization, and we want to be respected for not only our technical expertise, but our customer service delivery. We wanted a greater link between the pay, how we compensate individuals, and their actual performance. And when I say performance, it doesn't mean how well they program something. Mean basically how they participate and drive the organization forward. And our emphasis on employee professional development. Also stronger links to other systems, recruiting, promotions. Again, I kind of, use that 2x2 matrix. This is, some of the things that we use as our business system tools in order to advance people and make those key changes. And define soft skills in our competencies or behaviors that we feel that are important to our organization. I'm going to get into each one of these. I know it's a kind of an eye chart probably for the attendees, but the framework, and we kind of use this for any program that we're deploying at TEC. We think about, okay, if we're putting a program in place, such as the performance management, the program that I'm going to talk about, what are the key elements that need to happen? So how we approach programs at TEC are basically, set the standard and have the standard. So whether that's your business objectives, technical data, it could be, your project management guidelines. It could be policies and regulations that drive it. But in this specific example, it's more of our core defined role definitions, our mission, our vision, and our core values. Then we look at systems, how basically the methods and processes to help deploy the standard in which you set. So that's in this particular performance management framework, it's how we compensate individuals, the training that we use, and also other skill development or professional development methods to help get us to our standard. Then the expectation piece of this is the process to reinforce the standards and what is expected. So you have to be clear on what your expectations are and what you feel is important to your organization. And then accountability, that's basically how people progress or how you measure your programs. So that's how we approach programs here at TEC, and I just wanted to walk you through that concept as I explain each one of these elements. So under the standards, in the first page of the program, performance management program, our employees and people we are recruiting into our organization have a very clear understanding of our TEC core values and our mission statement. And it basically summarizes what we feel are important drivers to our business. And then they get basically a packet of understanding of, what is expected in different roles. And I say that outside of a generic job description because, you see job descriptions online for like a controls engineer, a software developer, or, just to name a few. But as you know, in control system integration, every individual holds different roles at any given time. So even though I'm a controls engineer, I might be acting as a project manager. I might be acting as a technical lead. I might be acting in a variety of different capacities. So we went through those as an organization, define what those roles are in each specific job category and what's expected from not only a technical perspective, but also from a soft skills. What our communication expectations are, what are expectations of how you interact with teams, and so forth. So we really went through and defined all those so people have a clear understanding of that. So we set that standard. Also, I have a copy of our performance review form up there, and that's all part of the performance management program. We defined, 6 core competencies that we feel are important, and they're all centered around the soft skills or the will factor. So systems, how do we get to our standard that we set? How do we make sure all employees have an understanding of what we feel is important as an organization, and how do we deploy that? So you'll see over on the left side, it's a page out of our performance management program. This is the training, basically, that we deploy here at TEC, and you'll see different levels. So all levels in the organization receive 30-plus hours of the selected classes up there. So enhancing customer service skills, essential leadership skills, emotional intelligence, and how to be an effective team member and effective business writing. So anybody in the organization will get that foundation, I'll call it. And we selected those as core skills that we feel anybody needs to know, from, from an accounting clerk to HR to our technicians, electricians, to our engineering staff. So that kind of sets the foundation on those skills. Then as you move up into more of a technical lead and above, we'll call it, role, so maybe you're not the exact project manager, but you're leading a piece of that project, or your inability more to influence other. We created what's called a custom leadership certificate for those individuals. So it's basically 9 select courses for 54 hours total training, and you'll see that certificate over to the right-hand side. That's for people moving into that role. We felt those core classes and those core skills are something that anybody in our organization needs to know to be effective in those capacities. And then as you move into more of a group leader, or a key project manager or engineering director and above, we selected, again, some more core criteria, what we feel are important. So the Leadership Elite Certificate, which encompassed those 9 classes plus additional classes. And then you'll see also some technical certifications there that they have to have in order to be in that position or move into that position. So that's kind of a tiered approach that we used at TEC, and we partnered with a local university here, Wichita State University, because that's where we are headquartered in Wichita, Kansas. And we met, they have a division called CMD, which is Center for Management Development. We sat down as an organization and basically worked with their leadership staff in defining those classes and putting together a budget and a timeline, and worked it out where the instructors actually come on site here at TEC and teach those. And it's been a really effective way for us to help the development and continue to support the professional development of those individuals. And you'll see I put up, some other, Project Management Institute for the PMI certification, the PMP certification through PMI, and the ISA, which is the CAP certification. So again, there's some technical components in there, but it's all centered around professional development. It also, as being part of the program, it puts a real emphasis on, it becomes part of our culture. Every employee knows, what we feel is important, and it becomes an important part of our culture in building that professional development. Another component, which is a system of this program, is basically when each employee is being recruited, or potential employees are being recruited, or our current employees are given this program packet, there's about 15 to 20 information slides, and I just put 3 of them up here. But on every core competency and beyond that, centered around soft skills, we put together a skill development page. And it's basically an example of the skill, an example of overdoing something, suggested readings to help develop those skills, the tech-related training we're offering, which is on the previous page, and some skill development tips. So again, it's helping that knowledge base. It's multiple methods and avenues to help develop those soft skills and continue that professional development piece. And every book that you see under the suggested readings, under all those skill development tips, we've purchased. So we kind of started a leadership library, we'll call it here. And they're on all the variety of topics, again, that we feel are important in the soft skills arena. So I guess the key point here is, you know, if you feel it's an important part of your organization, you're developing a program around it, make sure you have multiple avenues in order to help get you there. And, you know, some people, you know, even though the training is required and it helps, you know, that continued reinforcement of those skills beyond just the training are an important part of our program. The next system we have is basically compensating individuals based on the will factor. So you'll see over on the left is our total approach to compensation. And I have highlighted in yellow the will-based pay. This is how we approach compensation at TEC, from the base salary when somebody's hired and promoted to the merit increases, which we call the will-based pay, all the way to, you know, extra pay, bonuses, and benefits. People get confused around, you know, hey, I went to this training, or I've learned this new skill and I feel that I should get more money. And our program is more centered around, okay, you know, if you're getting promoted or if you're getting hired in an organization, you know, you get paid a market salary based on your position. That's based on skills, experience, and education. But each year you have an opportunity, which is more centered around the will-based pay, of how you did in the organization. You know, what was your initiative, your drive, your communication like, your continuous improvement involvement. You know, did you go the extra mile, basically? And that's what we call the will-based pay. So each year, you know, we complete a salary survey, and I take a look at, you know, Midwest CPI, what's going on. Mercer has a compensation survey that I use for professional services. I look at the CSIA data as well, and I take a look at, okay, so if companies on average are doing a 3% or 4% average merit increase, that becomes my midline target. So we set the scale from 0 to, for example, if 3 was the midline target, 0 to 6%. So each individual knows when they come into this organization, when they're part of it and they're developing their skills, that we, again, the soft skills and the will-based pay is part of their ability to influence their merit increase. So they have the opportunity to get up to 6%. You know, each year, just for their contributions from a soft skill standpoint, for their continuous improvement, how they did on projects, did they go the extra mile, all the things that I just talked about. So again, it's another system in this program to help support, you know, what we feel are important to our organization.
Gina, we have a question.
Yes.
Who measures the will? Meaning, like, were they a team player during a project? Who provides that feedback? Is it the other employees?
I probably have a couple slides on that, actually, in a little bit, so I could probably answer that. But yes, there's a couple of different methods that we utilize to deploy, you know, somebody's will factor.
Okay, we'll wait till we get to the slides then. Thank you.
So this is a screenshot of the review that I was talking about, the 6 key core competencies that we feel are important. What happens here is the employee actually rates themselves, and you'll see symbols. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's symbols across the top. You know, the team member goes through and rates themselves, and the supervisor comes right behind them and rates them. And the reason why I chose to use symbols in this performance criteria is if you use numbers, people like engineers will focus on the numbers. And so I wanted less focus on numbers than I did the actual dialogue of how to close the gaps and what their method and performance planning process will be to improve those skills in the next year, whether that's through additional training, additional reading, additional mentoring, you know, whatever those methods are. So this is kind of the review process. And again, to that question that was asked, we also use other measuring tools. But again, each employee, when they come in the organization, know the core competencies up front. So it's not a surprise each year. They get those in hand. Another page right behind that review system is what the expectations are. When you get done giving somebody feedback on their will or their performance for the year, and you say, okay, well, you're above expectations. Well, what does that mean? So we identified that. We put the expectations and defined that performance criteria. So everybody knows what it is to be needs improvement, meets expectation, above expectation, exceeds expectation. And then also how you do from year to year. Did you make considerable improvement? Were you on target from last year's planning process, or did you have significant improvement? And we actually go through and create a matrix based on this feedback. So each year when I get those performance evaluations, I mark down, were they exceed this year and meets the next year, or did they improve considerably, or were they on target? And you can kind of see movement through your organization to understand if some of the systems you're deploying are working effectively. The next piece of this is, and it's a little bit of a fuzzy eye chart on the top row, so I'll kind of read that. But we have another measurement tool that we use to evaluate people is our skills matrix, and we have this for all the technical pieces of our jobs, from the technology platforms that they used in regards to controls, electrical, and so forth. But we also developed one for the soft skills. So that's on the courses that we feel are important and the core competencies that we have outlined. And we keep track of this for each individual to see how they're making progress. And again, this is a tool and a method that we use to measure for a person's will factor and for promotions and so forth. So across the top, you see, it's basically a circle with 4 quadrants. So 0, the circle is empty, they can't perform the task, or they have had no knowledge or exposure to that whatsoever from either a technical standpoint or a soft skills standpoint. And again, this is just an illustration here. If one of the quadrants are filled in, basically they're familiar, they have a basic understanding of the concept, maybe they've had some knowledge or some training in that, whether we've offered it or they've came into the organization with it. So they have an understanding, but they're not, the expert at it. If 2 quadrants are filled in, they can perform with assistance. They can contribute on projects, but they can't take sole responsibility. Maybe they're not an expert in that soft skill or technical skill. And if 3 quadrants are filled in, basically, they're a pretty solid contributor. There might be a subject matter resource. They might be particularly good at the skill and can mentor others. And 4 quadrants filled in are what we call the subject matter experts. So they really excel in those areas. And again, this is a skills matrix that we have and we utilize for not only technical but for the soft skills component. We use this skills matrix in order to advance people through their career. So you have to have so many quadrants filled in so many areas, for example, in order to move up the career ladder. So whether you're a controls engineer 1 and you want to get to a controls engineer 3, there's very defined technical and soft skills criteria that have to be met that we utilize that skills matrix and performance evaluations for before you move into that role. And so that's the tools we use to advance somebody through a career progression. We have multiple levels, and we have clearly defined skills and how to get there. Other measurement tools, and this probably answers the question that was asked, is we have, of course, the performance evaluations that I just talked about, but we also have deployed, these are just some screenshots of some surveys we've done. When we get done with a key project or a new customer or something like that, we actually do a customer survey, more of a 360. So we ask the customer team to fill it out on the team. We ask our team members that were actually on the project, and we ask the project manager. So we kind of have a 360 approach, and this is where you really can get into the measurement of your success. Again, it was a big Excel spreadsheet and multiple pages to the survey, so I just put, some screenshots up here. But this is how we measure, the team results, the productivity, the team structure, team operation, and that's where all your soft skills come into play, not just your technical. That's where your soft skills come into play of how effective the project was. And so we track and trend those items, and I think that's an important part of measuring the whole will factor and soft skills effectiveness and see if your program is working. And then on the project leader, for example, so around that whole survey, there is a project manager, leader, and we actually, like I said, we had the project team actually evaluate that person. So we have him evaluate himself. We have the team evaluate that person, him or her, I should say. And again, the customer has feedback in that. And that just helps, again, understand that whole leadership piece and the soft skills and how they interacted with their team members and the customer. And I'll give a real life example. We had, a very talented individual, excellent technical abilities. We put him in a project lead role for a very significant project for a client. It was a very large project, had a very large project team. And technically, the project was pretty successful. But when we did this, kind of 360 measurement approach, and we really took a look at the results, we did have some high turnover on the team. We did have a lot of, kind of personality conflicts that we had to manage throughout the project. And we had some client feedback as well. So if you take a look at that whole lessons learned after you get done with a project, we thought, hey, this is where we need to develop this person's skills further. But it gave us a better understanding of hey, we thought this project was successful, and it was, but it could have been that much more successful. If you think about the time we spent managing personality conflicts or the turnover on the team where we had to plug new individuals in, so we probably weren't as efficient and maybe didn't make as much money as we could have had we had a person or an individual with a little bit higher capability or soft skills. So again, this is just another tool that we've used for measurement, and we use it as a tool to, for future training. I've outlined those multiple tiers of training. That's rolling. So every year and a half, 2 years, we add more courses to that, and we continue building that. So feedback like this and the surveys and the 360 process can really be helpful in understanding what criteria or what skills you need to be successful in your organization. And the final piece of this is, market your program. That's what we've done. It's 30 pages. When I'm recruiting somebody, our organization is located in Wichita, Kansas. It's not a destination location. So when I'm, recruiting either, people out of college or that, technical person that has a lot of experience, I put this program right in front of them right away, and people's eyes light up. They want to know that, while most companies are slashing training budgets, that we feel it's an important part, and they're going to take away something from this. These are courses they can put on their resume. They can take credit for. So I really advocate that, hey, you can take credit for this. This is building, this is helping our organization, but it's helping you as an individual be more effective in the future. So that's one of the marketing and recruiting strategies we use, as well as customers. We put this in front of customers of, hey, this is how we approach our development of our people, and it's been fairly successful. So I guess the key component here is, you can use this program or, really market your if you are investing in that particular topic, market it, because it does make a difference in recruiting and also your client base as well. And I think that's all I have for the presentation today. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I have a question for you, Gina. This is Bob. I'm told that leadership is lacking in our industry, and I've heard that from a number of people. And do you have any suggestions on development of leadership skills?
Actually, yes. That third tier of training that we offer for more that person in charge or that's leading people, we have a leadership elite program, and again, it encompasses we partner with a local university to help develop those skills. But, you know, to your point, most people leave managers, they don't leave companies. So that leadership piece is a key component. There's a tool called Leadership's Practices Inventory, LPI, which we haven't deployed yet here at TEC, but I'm looking at that program, and it's a real good leadership practice and inventory knowledge, and help evaluating you as a leader and help understand what your peers and also your employees think of you as a leader and what courses you can potentially offer, avenues you can offer to help that individuals. But it's a LPI is what it's called. But through Wichita State here, we've used what's called Leadership Elite. It's a very rigorous program to get people ready for their leadership roles, and that's been helpful, as well as the mini MBA that they've offered that helps more for the business foundation skills. And I think that's been a useful tool that we've utilized.
Do people who you recognize as being good leaders, do they typically accept this opportunity to take this advanced training like through this local university?
Generally, yes. Most people are very eager to receive the training and excited about doing so, because most people understand that, when you're promoting somebody or you're working somebody into that role, they don't always have all the skills that are needed. So, most of our individuals have been very enthusiastic about it.
Very good. Thank you. A question came in. How many employees are at TEC?
We have right now 46 total employees.
Okay. Have you ever released a person who just couldn't have their will developed, but yet they were very good technically? I mean, do you place enough emphasis on it that you would let a person go who just couldn't have their soft skills developed?
Yes, we have, is the answer to that. And
okay. Yeah, no details
it was probably
required.
Around that example that I was talking about. Again, you can have the best technical person, but if the rest of your team is suffering, either due to higher turnover, you're spending more time managing conflicts because this person's interpersonal style, then it becomes a tough decision. But if you've spent the time giving this person feedback and taking other avenues besides what we've launched here to help that individual, and you kind of come to that conclusion that, hey, they're listening to what I'm saying, but they're not really, grasping the fact that they have to do anything about it, then it really becomes, that will piece of, hey, they're not willing to try. So, and then you have to make a tough business decision, and we've done that.
Mm-hmm. Another question has come in. Has your program helped to reduce turnover?
It's been in effect. We launched it, basically we started the first elements of it in the end of 2011, so it's been in place for about 2 years, and again, it's a pretty, bigger program, so it's been in place. I would say, yes, it has had a impact on our reduction of turnover from the first year I was here until now. We're below 5%, so that's a pretty good number, especially, being in the location we are. But I think it's also a retention tool is more the critical part of this program. It really, I think, retains people when they're looking at other organizations and what's our competitive advantage. This is one of the things that we have to offer that other companies don't. So, yes, it does reduce turnover. Well, Gina, I can not think of any additional questions to ask, and I would open it up to our attendees if anyone has any additional questions. Now would be the time to enter those into the Q&A box. Well, we had a great turnout here today, and we appreciate everyone coming. I will start. I have some things I want to talk about as far as things that are coming up.
with CSIA. In the meantime, if someone has a question, please proceed with entering that into the Q&A box. So to all the attendees, again, thanks for your participation, and we hope you've had several takeaways that will help you to improve your company's performance. And Gina, thank you very much for your contribution of time and expertise. Your presentation was very insightful. We also thank Jim Peterson, TEC President, for sharing your expertise with other CSIA members, and we wish both of you the very best. And thanks again to our host and sponsor, Monica Anderson and John Weber at Software Toolbox. They do an excellent job for us every month. And also want to say, please complete the survey that you will receive very soon. It helps us to improve our webinar system. So in closing, here are a few brief important considerations. Watch closely for the forthcoming details on the new Industrial Automation Exchange. It replaces our Find an Integrator, and it does so much more. So it's really exciting, so keep an eye open for that. It'll launch in April. Next, have your sales and management personnel participate in the new CSIA Sandler Sales Solution Training Program. Initial training is in April or June, and it's filling up fast. I'm going to pause there for a second because another question came in. Will the PowerPoint presentation be available? And the answer to that is yes, it definitely will be, along with the archived recording. It'll be in the controlsys.org in our archives for all of our webinars. So yes, it's the recorded webinar as well as Gina's PowerPoint slides. Now, returning to my to-do list, be sure to come to the CSIA conference in San Diego, April 23 to 26. The program will appeal to those who manage various disciplines of your system integration company, and Gina will be one of the 23 presenters at the conference, along with all the others who were part of this 8-series program. So essentially, they're going to take their message that has been started in the webinars and grow it even larger in person at the conference. And lastly, the March newsletter provides details on 4 upcoming webinars, so be sure to check them out. And finally, if you have any suggested topics for a webinar, include it in your survey comments. One more question. Along with the presentation, will Gina's contact information be included? Yes, we will be sure to do that. With that, we'll go off the air, so to speak. And again, this is Bob Lowe, CSIA Executive Director, and thank you so much for attending. Goodbye now.
And I'm going to stop the recording.